All right, in the last part of the lesson, we're going to talk about how to find all of the zeros. So that means for this, we need to have the same number of answers as the highest power. So on 5, when we're done, we should have 3 answers. Okay. Now looking at this, this is not factorable. So that means that I'm going to go through the rational zero theorem to find a factor. So we need factors of our constant. So that is going to be plus and minus 1 and then 3. And then we need factors of our leading coefficient. So our leading coefficient is 1, so plus minus 1. Our list of possible answers. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. And then we are going to use our graphing calculators to find any of the actual rational answers. Okay. So again, we're going to go to the y equals. We're going to type in that equation. So clear what's there. So x cubed minus 3x squared plus x minus 3. So zoom 6 to graph it in a standard window. Okay, and again, we're going to use logic, so common sense here, to decide which number is the best number to test. So we don't need to test any of the negatives because our graph isn't crossing on this side. And if I'm looking at this picture, it looks like it's crossing at positive 3. And that positive 3 is on our list. So I'm going to press the trace key, 3, enter. And we ended up with 0 for the y. So that means that one of my answers is 3. Okay. So now to find the other answers, so again we need a total of 3 and we have 1. We're going to have to figure out what our missing factors are and solve that. So to do that, we're going to use synthetic division. So I'm going to use this number, so 3. We're going to divide it into this, and that's going to give us the missing factor that we need to solve. So let's see, 1, negative 3, 1, negative 3. So this would be 1, 3, add to get 0, multiply to get 0, add to get 1. Sorry, ahead of myself here. Multiply to get 3, add to get 0. So we have our remainder, the constant, the x, and the x squared term. So now we need to solve x squared plus 1 equals 0. Okay. So for this one, we can just subtract the 1 over. So this will be x squared equals negative 1. And then we would take the square root of each side. So I'm going to write my answers up here. So x equals, the square root of 1 is 1. And then because it's negative, we're going to have an I. We also need our plus minus since we're taking the square root of something. So we'll have the plus and minus I. So again, this represents 2 answers because of the plus minus. And our third answer is from the rational root that we already found. So these are the 3 answers to this problem. All right, on number 6, if we take a look at that one. So again, when we're solving, we always want to check to see if we can factor, because if something is factorable, it's a lot less time and work. So looking at problem 6, all of the terms have x's in them, so that means that I can start this problem by factoring. So I can factor out an x, and then that would be x squared minus 3x minus 9 equals 0. And then we would try to see if we can factor, but nothing's going to multiply to be negative 9 and add to be 3. But this is a quadratic equation, so we can just use the quadratic formula to finish solving this. So again, we're setting each group, so we would have x equals 0, and then x squared minus 3x minus 9 equals 0, and we're solving each one. So this one's already solved for us. So, and again, we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve this one. So we would have x equals 3 plus and minus the square root of 3 squared, so 9, minus 4 times our a value, which is 1, times our c value, which is negative 9, all over 2 times our a, which is 1. And then now we're just going to simplify that as much as we can. So 3 plus and minus, and let's see, that is going to give us, so if we multiply first, we would have negative 4 times negative 9, which is going to be 36, and then we are adding that to 9 to get 45 over 2, and then 45 we can simplify, so again 9 divides into that, so it's 9 times 5, So then this is going to simplify to be 3 plus and minus 3 square root of 5 over 2. And then, so this again represents two answers because of that plus and minus. And our third answer is this 0 right here. So I'm just going to add a comma 0. So all of this represents our three answers to that problem. All right, so next set of problems, same idea. So again, this one we can't factor. So again, we're going to find the factors of our constant. So that's our -2. So plus and minus 1, plus and minus 2. Our leading coefficient, so that's 15. So we'd have 1, 3, 5, and 15. Our list of possible answers. So let's see, that will be 1 divided by 1, so 1. 1 divided by 3 is 1/3. 1 divided by 5 is 1/5. 1 divided by 15 is 1/15. And then 2 divided by 1 is 2. 2 divided by 3 is 2/3. 2 divided by 5 is 2/5. And 2 divided by 15 is 2/15. So again, now that we have our list of possibilities to find any of the actual rational answers, we are using our calculator. Okay, so again, y equals, typing in this equation, so 15x cubed minus x squared plus 3x minus 2, zoom 6 to graph it. All right, so it's crossing once. So again, I'm going to adjust my window a little bit. So I'm going to go from -5 to 5 for both the x and y, and then press graph. All right, so it looks like it's crossing between 0 and 1. So we need to test the positive numbers, and we only need to worry about testing the fractions. So I'm going to just do it in order. So if I test 1/3, so trace 1 divided by 3. Okay, did not get 0, so we move on to the next one. So the next one is 1/5. So 1 divided by 5. So still did not get 0. So next one is 1/15. So 1 divided by 15. Enter. Still did not get 0. Skipping over the 2. So now we're going to test 2/3. So 2 divided by 3 did not work. And then 2/5 is next. All right, so there we got 0. So 2/5 is the rational answer. And because our graph is not crossing anywhere else, we don't need to worry about testing any more numbers. Okay. All right, so now we're doing synthetic division with our 2/5. So 15, -1, 3, -2. So 15 comes down. And then we're taking 2/5 times 15, which is 6. So that goes here. Add to get 5. 2/5 times 5 is 2. Add to get 5. And 2/5 times 5 is 2 again. Add to get 0. So again, we're going to put this back into a quadratic equation. So remainder, constant, x, and x squared. So we are solving 15x squared plus 5x plus 5 equals 0. And notice that they're all divisible by 5. So I'm actually going to divide by 5 before I do anything else to make our number smaller. So now we have 3x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. Now this won't factor. So that means that we're using our quadratic formula. So x equals, and then we'll have -1 plus and minus the square root. So 1 squared is 1, minus 4 times 3 times 1, all over 2 times 3. Oops. And then we are simplifying. So again, we start in the radical, and then 2 times 3 is 6. So 4 times 3 is 12, and then times 1 is still 12. So 1 minus 12 is -11. And then we can simplify that. So -1 plus and minus I squared of 11 over 6. So again, this represents two answers, and we need a total of 3 because that was our highest power. So the other answer we already found, that was our rational answer of 2/5. So I'm just going to put a comma, 2/5. So this represents our 3 answers to that problem. and we're going to do the last problem for this section in the next video.